Now, your approach to the actual nacelle design is quite a departure from what we saw in the Enterprise E. Can you tell us a little about that design process? The nacelles on a Starfleet ship are by far one of the most important elements of any Federation design and instantly recognizable. So I'm interested in finding out about your influences in that department.
And it's funny, I jumped all over. Nacelles I found to be the hardest thing to do. Because they are so, it's like if you go too close to something that exists, you're copying it. If you go too far, everybody's like, well, that's not a nacelle. I'm like, well, find the center. And it's just like I had been doing doodles and sketches after I won because people were like, because again, what I sent was a concept with no real refinement to a whole lot of, there was a lot of room for them to do what they wanted.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't push it as far and go as far as some people had where there were full renderings and 3D models, because I would have felt really bad if they hadn't chose it. But I gave them a lot of wiggle room. But as you can see, I mean, I have sketches. You guys have the sketches. Some of the nacelles I have are very organic, where they flow with the line of the ship, and others are very mechanical, where they're closer and towards like the D's or actually kind of like the J's, because the J has a very, it's like almost an old school nacelle on a newer ship. So finding the nacelle, the right nacelle for it was difficult, because I mean, it was like, do I go organic with it and let it just flow off the strut, or do I actually plant it on the strut like the Enterprise A? How does it fit? I mean, once I got into this, I was kicking myself. I'm like, why did I do this? This is horrible. Why am I doing this? Because I'm not getting paid for this. I mean, what am I doing this for? But it was one of again, it's like, I think I have on there, I'm just looking at the images, 1 2 3 3 4 5 different looks for nacelles. And I mean, I stuck with an in-between. When I started really going with it, was an in-between organic on my idea of what it should have looked like. It was in between. It kind of had an organic shape and arc to it, but it was like the next step from the E, because the E has a very unique nacelle, but it's very angular, mechanical, and I started going more towards the organic side that the J was going, because the J is a very organic looking ship compared to its predecessors.
So when designing her, what did you envision her role being? Close to the Explorer of the Enterprise D, or like its predecessor, the Enterprise E, a battleship? Or was that something that Cryptic made clear in its open call for Enterprise F?
I don't think they said. They just wanted the next ship in the line. And I wanted a little of both. I wanted it to be more, I honestly wanted it Kirk's ship, because Kirk's ship was a ship of exploration, but it was also a cowboy's horse that he can get on and ride around when he wanted to and shoot things. So it should be, I wanted it to be right in the middle. I wanted Kirk's ship is what I wanted. If I could have, I would have redesigned that, but.
Well, given the time jump into 2409, what did you see its capabilities being, both offensive and defensive? Was she using warp or slipstream as her primary drive? And just how much of an overall upgrade did you envision her being compared to the Enterprise E?
Honestly, at that point, I never played the game. I had never actually, I mean, I didn't play the game until after I won. So I didn't know what form. I mean, I knew there was transwarp. I knew there were conduits. I knew there was warp. So I always figured it would be a transwarp kind of thing, kind of like Voyager would use the conduits and fly around. I saw her as a beast. She would take a hit and keep going. She was supposed to be this big monstrous thing that could. I mean, they were in the middle of a war. That's what Stowe was at that point. They were in the middle of a war with the Klingons. I knew that. So she had to be a big ship. She could take a hit. She could get out of there if she needed to, and she could look intimidating.
And how much of an overall upgrade did you see being compared to the E? Was it something drastic? I mean, 36 years, quite a hefty thing, but did you see it being several times stronger, or just iteration, or just refinement, or?
I think refinement with a couple. I mean, at that point, I mean, we had quantum torpedoes already, and I mean, how much further can you go? What, are we going to have interdimensional torpedoes that blow up somewhere else and then bring you there? I don't know, but
yes,
it's like, oh, I just shot a torpedo and it disappeared, and that ship just got sucked into it. But
and he won the war. Yeah.
I mean, firing little black holes or something. I don't know. I just saw it as a. I mean, because if you look at Star Trek's technology from even the '60s on, it stayed the same. It's like they still had phasers, they had torpedoes, warp cores. Things got better. They just got refined and got better. So I would have figured it would have went the same route, where it was just things got better. It's like instead of the old V8 engines in the 57s, the warp core is now like the V12 in one of the modern day sports cars. So same technology, just better.
So would you say she was closer to the jump between, say, the Enterprise A to the Excelsior, you know, a complete redesign but based on newer tech, as opposed to NX-01 versus Constitution class, a radical jump?
She would, yeah, I would have considered her more as the next step in the evolution, not a jump, because it is a huge jump from the NX to the NC and the NCCs, and I want to know what those ships in between look like. Maybe we'll find that out in Discovery. But yes, I was always the next step. It wasn't because if you look at some of the silhouettes on my original drawing, they really were. Between the A, even the Excelsior is a big jump. Mm-hmm. It's a huge jump. There's a whoa, where'd that come from? And then you go to the C, and you're like, whoa, okay. But
these are big jumps, absolutely.
Yeah, those are very large jumps. I was like, maybe we'll just take it 30 years down the road and make it, instead of a 70s Corvette, make it look like a 90s Corvette.
And besides, we know the E got refitted multiple times, so the jump is not going to be as drastic because it was refitted. Mm-hmm. So were there any other unique things about the design that you'd envisioned, or anything even after the fact, that we've not already talked about?
Oh, there were tons afterwards. After the initial contest was over, I actually was going to walk away from it because of some of the backlash that had happened. I was like, I'm done with this. I don't need this. I've got other things better in my life to do than be ripped to shreds by a bunch of people who play a video game. Yeah, I got some really nasty emails and stuff.
And we will ask about the fan reaction right at the end.
And because of Andrew Probert, I kept going. He had asked me, he goes, don't drop it. I want to see what you would have come up with. Because he knew the idea. He knew it was going to happen. They were going to take it and go with it. But he goes, let me see what you're going to come up with. Which the last drawing I did, which was 2012, it's an overhead shot, looking down on it, 3/4 kind of. That's the last right there. Round saucer. Always in my head, it was a round saucer going back to the dish instead of the chevrons, and heading more towards the J, because the J has an oblong oval, very much like the D. So we got to start going back from that, because, again, the spoon shape, it was Voyager, it was the E. We went to the hard chevrons with like the Prometheus and a few of the other ones. Let's start softening them back up and bring them back towards the actual saucer. And that's where I always went with it. The nacelles got slightly refined. The necks came in tighter underneath the primary hull, and impulse engines on the actual nacelle struts, things like that. So
I like your warp engines, or your warp nacelles. These, how they got a slight curve at the back, sort of razor sharp there. But I like it.
Yeah, they come in tight and they're a little more organic. The ship itself is just slightly more organic from what I had sent them originally. But that's really the last time I've actually worked on anything for it. It was life got in the way, and I just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Damn that life. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, the final design that we actually do see in game is somewhat different than your initial sketches. You've kind of talked about this a little bit before, but how much were you consulted along the way in regards to those changes, and just what was the process like after hearing that your design had been chosen? I know you kind of said it was their property now, and just one more question: how excited were you to find out that you had just designed the next Enterprise?
I freaked out. that initial thing, again, like I said, I opened the email. I got up that morning, I opened my email, and I was like, check that out. And it was like, and it says, congratulations, you won. And I was like, I won what? And I'm thinking, oh, it's spam. Open it up, and I was like, that you won to design the Enterprise. And it was like that whole, no, I didn't win that. And go online, and sure enough, I had won. And it was like, whoa, it started to sink in. And then there was like, oh, okay. So there was the initial freak out, and I was like, I called my mother. It was like one of the first things I did. I was like, guess what your son just did? And she's like, what? I was like, I just designed the Enterprise. She goes, you've been doing that since you were 6. I was like, no, but this time it's for real. But it was almost surreal, the process of it. So that reaction, that was my reaction. It was surreal until it really sunk in, until things started really coming at me. started getting emails.
And then they took the design out of your hands.
Yes.
And what did you think at that point? It's like, were you concerned? Were you worried that you were going to be involved more?
No, because I had been doing this, and I do have a degree in it. I have done concept work before. Their rules stated very clearly that they wanted something that they could use as a basis. It was a basis. It was the initial concept. They wanted something that they could then use. An idea. They needed an idea and then something to run with. Something they could sit and brainstorm around. And that's how I approached it. I never approached it that I would do full color drawings or something. I would never go as far as, say, John Eve's final renderings of ships and stuff like that. I had thought about it. But there was no reason for it because that's not what they wanted. They were pretty clear about what they wanted. Mm-hmm. So I knew what I was getting into. I was like, okay, so I did a concept. I've done it before. I've done it for films and stuff before where it was like, oh yeah, thanks, but no thanks. We're not going to use your ideas. Fine. Mm-hmm. My skin's a little thick. It's thick enough at that point where it's not going to bother me. And again, it's like when it came to the having it pulled from, it's not like it was pulled from my hands per se, because I never really thought I was going to do anything with it from there on out. I even asked them, I was like, do you guys need anything else from me? Not like, do I, oh, what can I do? It's like, do you need anything from me? Mm-hmm. And I got the response from 3 people over there. Nope, actually, we're pretty good. And I'm guessing the announcement came after they had already started.
Yeah. That
they had already started doing things, and they knew where they were going with it long before they made the announcement.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, okay. From where I never, it was just all 3 emails, but that's what I gathered because they had already gotten. It wasn't too much longer after that we saw some of Thomas's initial sketches and some of Adam Williams' design, like 3D models and stuff. So yeah, so I'm pretty sure they were pretty much far along on it.
But that brings us in. Are you happy with the final version and the differences and tweaks and how it finally came out in game?
Yeah. Again, there were things I would have changed. There were things that I was like, why didn't I think of that? It's like some of the ways, like the impulse engines on the actual nacelle struts, the way that they drew them in there. It's like, that was one of those, oh, why didn't I think of that? The chevron bothers me a little bit because I always wanted it to be more of a rounder saucer, something that kind of bulked out the front end of the ship. It doesn't bother me now because you can get a round saucer for it. The
round saucer comes in Enterprise K, so it's fine. It's just
it's
more
fine.
time to right.
Well, they start stretching it out.
Exactly. Yeah. And what did you think when they then refitted it for the updated version, when they tweaked the design yet again and added more detail?
Oh, from just recently where they added they have been doing monstrous amount of leaps and bounds. And when they released the upgrades and some of the other builds for it, when Thomas and the guys over at Cryptic posted those on Twitter and all over the place, I flipped out. I was like, oh my God, that's my ship. The round saucer. When I saw the rounds, I was like, that's my ship. That's it. You got it. And I even emailed him. I was like, dude, that's it. That's what I wanted from the get-go. He goes, yeah, I know. And I was like, yeah, I know. We've talked afterwards. And I was just like, that's it. You nailed it. And I was like, if it just had this, this, and this. And he sent me a picture of it configured exactly how I had just told him. And I was like, dude, you nailed it. That's exactly what I would have done.
Wow, that must be satisfying. Glad I had a happy ending the story, because that's nice to hear.
Yeah. And he was just like, woo, and I was like, woo. So it was all good. So
Thomas is that sort of guy.
Yeah, he really is. He's a great guy.
And it's worth asking, finally, finally this question, what has the fan reaction actually been to this design? Are you sought after the occasional autograph? Because you're essentially now a Star Trek designer, an unlicensed enterprise designer, in fact.
Yes. Now the fan reaction is good. I get it all the time when people. I pop in on you guys' Facebook all the time, and especially when it's about the F. I will jump in there and just watch people sit there and shred it and all that. And I'm like, I'm right here, guys. But even then, I was like, I wonder who designed that. But because they don't know who I am, nobody knows who I am, and I prefer it that way to a point. But there are some people who, when they find out, they're like, "Oh, dude, I fly 3 of them in game, and I love it. It's awesome." And I mean, it takes a while to turn, but it's a really cool ship. And it does. It takes a really long time to turn. I've got 7, so it takes a really long time. If you're ever in game and you see the USS I made this, that's me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
But okay, what was the fan reaction at the time, though?
At the time, wow. Like I said, I was the most hated man in Star Trek.
Was this before J.J. Abrams or was it after J.J. Abrams?
Yes. Yes, when J.J. came along, I was like jumping up and down. Like, no, J.J. was hated at that point because this would have been 2010. So he was not exactly the most hated guy. People were very disappointed with him, but with the release, then I came along, and I wish I had still kept some of them. I mean, I had some really they are downright, because I mean, it's like, how did you find me? I mean, I had a website and stuff with my address on it, and a few of them came to that address, and they were just vicious to the point. I mean, the Trek BBS, especially the Star Trek boards, the bulletin boards and the chat boards on there, they were downright cruel. There were some, like, there's the outrage of, hey, he's a professional designer, he shouldn't be allowed. And he does this for a living. He's done work for Disney, and it never said I couldn't be a pro.
He's still a fan.
Yeah, I'm still a fan.
That's the main point of it.
I mean, it's not like, again, it's not like I work for CBS and I did this.
Yeah.
I don't work for CBS. I wasn't freelance, but I was close enough back then. But I have never worked for CBS, and I couldn't have, if I had, I couldn't join the contest. That was specifically set out. It's like, I couldn't do it. But I mean, yes, I'm a professional designer, but there are quite a few other professional designers who submitted designs. I just happen to be one of the ones that won. I mean, I wouldn't have chosen mine. I know which one I would have chosen. I would have chose Chris Madden's. That would have been the one I did. And I mean, his was gorgeous, because I think it looked like Kirk's ship. But yeah, was there death threats? I don't think there were death threats, but there were some really, really people wanted to do nasty things with me in dark places, and it was vicious. I was a hack. I couldn't do this. He can't even do that. I mean, I was like, I'm a hack. Okay, let's see. I know how good I am. I've worked for Disney, so I'm not a hack. But I mean, yes, the drawing I sent was a 15-minute sketch sent out last minute. That's what it was. It wasn't. I mean,
the problem with the internet is we all have it, and with something that gets shown to 10,000 people, if there's 2 people in that, even 5 people that really don't like it and really want to be that sort of person, those voices sound loud as anything. It's just a couple of people. We look at, obviously we have this media empire almost, and obviously we get a lot of negative comments, but we get dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of positive, and it's that relative proportion. But obviously you get really kind of more depressed at the negative ones, but then you get 15 people say that was just a great episode, just talking. And obviously you've been following Star Trek Discovery and the backlash against that ship. You were there with the Enterprise D. I'm sure you got the impression of how much some people hated that at the start. The NX-01, that happened. I mean, every Enterprise has had this. You just happen to be with the full internet. And obviously now you've seen the Discovery controversy. So I mean, it's just. We do too.
Okay, I was like, oh, cool. It's old. It's Macquarie's old stuff.
It's retro yet new.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, does it need refining? Sure. And then I found out, it's like, oh, look, it's have you guys seen it?
Yes.
You have seen it?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
This is about you, Adam. This is about you.
Okay. I'm just saying, if you've seen it, I want pictures. But because I've got connections, I just don't have those connections. I mean, I don't know. When it came down to nowadays, I mean, I thought I had a thick skin at that point, because I mean, rejection is part of being an artist, and especially if you're going to be a professional artist who works as some of the artists call them, you whore yourself out or you prostitute yourself out, and that's how I do it. I mean, I was a professional artist. I made money doing it that way, and I mean, I don't paint, I don't do that kind of stuff. I do stuff for money. That's how I see it. It's my job. It's my living. I just really love to do it. But you still have to have a thick skin. You have to be able to take the nope, do it again, nope, try again. And there's a point where constructive criticism and criticism, separate, and it was like, okay, I can take the constructive stuff. I can even take some of the I don't like it and blah blah blah. When you start threatening me and you start saying certain things about, no, there's a line drawn. It's like, I think my best reply to all of that was, where was yours?
Yeah.
I put mine out there. And this is what finally it shut up a whole bunch of people. It was like, I did it. I took the time, put my stuff out there. I don't care if you like it or not, but where's yours that you can yell and scream at me?
And the final, thing on that is obviously it's not just that you put it out there. It got picked. It got made. It got continually made, and
got the hat.
Yeah. So obviously the most important people thought it was the one they wanted. So clearly it's not a hack. You're not a hack. Whatever. You fitted their niche, and now it's Enterprise F.
Yes.
And like I say, it's not the canonical one per se, but it is certainly the licensed, and in the Stowverse, the flagship of the Federation. Yes. And if I had that ship, I'd be bloody proud, as I hope you are.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to stay with me for the rest of the life. I would love sometime in the future for CBS or somebody to call me and say, hey, would you like to come on board and do something? I was like, yeah, I'm proud. I really, really enjoyed the fact that, yes, my name goes right up there. Matt Jeffries, Andrew Probert, Doug Drexler, John Eves, Rick Sternbach, and me.
So for this final question, we kind of asked this of our designers, but if you had the opportunity to do a refit version of your design, let's say, even based on your initial sketches or the final one that they're using in game right now, what kind of changes would you make, or what kind of additions? Just what would you do with it to make it a little bit newer and updated?
And of course, what is your favorite and least favorite thing of your concept, your final version of the concept?
Start with the first half of it. What would I change and what would I refine and refit on what they have in game? The nacelles. I would thicken them up a little bit. They look, from an overhead shot, they don't look too bad when you see them in profile. When you get overhead, they kind of disappear. They're too thin. They need a little bit, just for the shape of the body. You've got the large chevron or saucer, the thicker body, and then it comes down to these very, very thin, razor-pointed kind of nacelles. And again, they're not bad. They look fine. They're very much in line where I wanted to go. They're semi-organic looking, so they have a look to them. I would probably just fatten them up a little bit. I really like the way they put the two little wings off the back end of it. I thought those were really kind of cool, so I'd keep that. So I would do that. I don't know. I think there were additions they made that I was like, again, the little landing craft off the back end was something I would never have thought of. I was like, that is incredible. Why did I not think of that? So that would stay. But the nacelles would probably be the biggest. Mm-hmm. I might tweak the nacelle struts a little bit. I think front end, maybe a little touch to the saucer. The deflector dish, but not much else.
Cool.
Maybe go more in line with the original, like the refit Enterprise blue nacelle instead of the dish inside the blue, and the way that the NX-01 and the Galaxy and those had. I don't know.
And your favorite and least favorite thing about your original concept?
The nacelles. And the way I had the necks. The way I drew the nacelle, I literally threw nacelles onto it just because it needed nacelles. I did not know where to go with them. So I would say that's one of my least favorite looks of the drawing. And then where the necks actually land on the saucer, I would still tighten those up a little bit.
Okay, I think that is a wrap for this episode. We of course like to thank Adam for taking the time to join us and talk about this whole process, and of course design this new Enterprise to add to the lore of Star Trek. So thank you so much, Adam.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Now, everyone of our viewers, hopefully you have a new appreciation for exactly what goes into designing a starship, and your words, Adam, will now be immortalized on the internet forever. So please, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, click that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And if you want notifications whenever we release a new episode, please click that little bell icon so that you never miss one.
And that is right, guys. If you want to go to our website at trekyards.com, you can see everything that's there. And if you want to help the show, please click that donate button and give what you can. And if you want to really help the show, go to Patreon, which is our monthly donation service, and give what you can there. But until next time, guys, I'm Connor Cookins.
I'm Adam Ihle.
And I am Captain Foley. saying see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.